February 2022 is a good month with regards to MMO releases. Lost Ark breaking 1.3 million concurrent players, the launch of Guild Wars 2's End of Dragons expansion, not to mention the plethora of incredible non-MMOs. Hey, my name is STIX and welcome back to another monthly bite of MMORPG news, a video series where I covered every bit of MMO related news that mattered to me this month. If this is your first time here and you're at all interested in keeping up to date with everything MMO related, then I urge you to go ahead, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell to be kept up to date with everything that I post. Quick shout out to our patrons over on Patreon. You guys are all amazing. It is genuinely humbling to see people that are willing to support you in any way, whether it be via a like or a comment or even a view. Now today we have quite a bit to cover. Blue Protocol's delayed due to a potential engine conversion, a new Arcade game, MMOs shutting down, and furthermore, even more worrisome, MMOs scamming people. I hope you guys have your popcorn ready. Lost Ark has had its fair share of launch issues. Constant server crashes, EU players having queue times of upwards of 25,000, waiting 8 to 12 hours to even get into the game if they weren't disconnected due to heavy traffic. Even with the addition of EU West server clusters, duplication issues that affected approximately 4% of the player base. But even amongst all of that, it managed to have what is arguably one of the largest MMO launches in decades, with concurrent players eclipsing New World at 1,320,000 at its peak, and over 5 million active players within the first couple days. Regardless of whether or not you enjoy or loathe the game, you cannot deny that it has been a monumental success thus far, bringing attention to a genre that hasn't really seen this much activity for a new game in longer than I remember. The real test, however, will be whether or not the game can maintain that player base as the honeymoon period wears off relatively quickly, and we've already seen a decline of almost 30% concurrent players a week after it launched. The devs behind the upcoming Palia MMO have just revealed that they plan on launching with a free-to-play business model. Yeah, for those of you that thought that it might have the quality and the polish of a premium title, no. Which is understandable, really, as this way they'll be able to maximize their return on their investment. If they charge players a premium price, the game would likely fail, as all premium MMOs seem to do these days. A free business model is an assurance that it will reach the maximum number of players possible, although they did state that they are going to focus on cosmetic items in the form of outfits, which could potentially do well, but it's unlikely cosmetic items alone will be enough to fully sustain them long term. Additionally, the Palia team are ready to begin alpha testing. However, if the previous test phase was anything to go off of, I'm going to speculate that Discord members are probably going to receive priority. Yes, ArcheWorld, as in ArcheAge. XLGames, the developer behind the ArcheAge intellectual property, announced earlier this month that they were looking to develop a brand new MMORPG set within the ArcheAge world, thus the name ArcheWorld. But temper your excitement. XLGames' CEO was ecstatic to reveal that every item in ArcheWorld would utilize blockchain technology to turn them into NFTs. Yeah, NFTs, yay. The CEO was quoted saying it means a complete creator economy, in which users go beyond simply owning the rights to an item, making quests for the game, making maps, creating dungeons, and revising and proposing plans. Yeah, this does not bode well for ArcheAge 2 at all. Despite a continued decline in active players, PSO2 New Genesis and Sega, more specifically, are remaining consistent with regards to updates for their flagship MMO. And honestly, in a few more large patches, it might even be a worthwhile MMO to devote time to long term. Players earlier this month got to see the level cap increase up to 40 with new open world content, new concert performances, and quests. While not nearly as large an update as the previous one with the region and the class, it's still a step in the right direction. I feel like I've covered World of Warcraft a grand total of one single time in the last year, and that's about how frequently they've rolled out updates. Thankfully, on the 22nd next week, we're going to finally gain access to patch 9.2 Eternity's End. There's been a lot of negative press surrounding WoW, surrounding its parent company, but players are eagerly awaiting the new content that Eternity's End will bring with it, and maybe a change in direction when we get the next expansion, a change that will warrant players actually coming back to play the game that they all fell in love with so many moons ago. I've been covering Kritika Reboot, or more specifically the entire Kritika franchise, since I started this channel almost 5 years ago, and I never thought that I would see the day the game shut down completely. When En Masse shut it down initially, I was legitimately concerned, but shortly after, the developers, Alem, confirmed that they would be self-publishing the game and that it would be better for the game's health, much like we saw with SoulWorker and Lion Games, which has since flourished ever since Gameforge lost rights to it. Unfortunately, that was not the case with Kritika, and the Kritika intellectual property is shutting down in the West. In Russia, though, the game is just beginning, with new founders packs readily available for players to sink more money into to help fund Alem's next failed MMO revival. Looking at the Steam stats for Swords of Legends Online, you'll see that there are 200 players playing concurrently in the last 24 hours, and while there are at least double those numbers playing the game, because players do play Swords of Legends via the Gameforge launcher, this is a terrible state for the title to be in. Gameforge, aware of this, have made the decision to alter the business model from a premium buy-to-play MMO to a free-to-play one. Yes, after months spent declining, after months of players spending their money on purchasing digital copies, everyone will now be capable of playing together. Although they revealed that the expansion, which they're titling 2.0 Firestone Legacy, will be going live right around the time Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons does, meaning there's going to be some very steep competition, especially given the option between playing Swords of Legends Online, Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons, or Lost Ark. Speaking of Guild Wars 2, did you know that it's actually launching on February 28th after years waiting for a large expansion with new content to explore, massive alterations to the game, and, well, a potential influx of new players? We're finally getting it. We're going to Canada, boys. Although I do want to note some concerning info. NCSoft released their fourth quarter financials recently, which went on to show a less than stellar return on their investment in Guild Wars 2, which isn't terrible news because Guild Wars 2 has been on the decline for years now, but it just goes to show that this game is in desperate need of both new players and new content to retain those players, as if this trend continues, Guild Wars 2 will end up being shut down much like they did with WildStar, and none of us want that to happen. Hopefully, this is the comeback that NCSoft needs to reassure their players that the game has a strong future. I've been saying that TitanReach was a scam since the beginning. I did a video on it, and the reception for that video was quite negative. You don't know what you're talking about, STIX, in retrospect? Yes, I did. I often do. People are just so deluded with what they want to be reality that they do not see the red flags being raised. With regards to TitanReach, the too long didn't read is that after failing to fund their game via Kickstarter, they went on to Indiegogo, which also subsequently failed. This left the developers begging players to give them money, as without money, the game would be dead in the water. They ended up getting the funding that they needed somehow, released into early access with a $70 buy-in, and complained that they had once again run out of funding. The devs ended up receiving a sizable investment shortly after, with them hiring on a surplus of new staff members. And then here we are. The game is shutting down development after wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars potentially, who knows. And what did the devs have to say about this? We're gonna make NFTs now, guys, see ya. According to Massively OP, the lead developer used some of the investors' money to pay off his existing debts. He put money into crypto, and he bought a Tesla using the profits from that crypto investment. Holy freaking yikes. Elyon, with a maximum of 600 concurrent players during peak hours right now, has confirmed that they are merging their North American and European servers into a single server for each region, while introducing new growth events in an effort to aid new players in leveling. I honestly don't even know what to say about this. Elyon, it was a fun game when it went under the Ascent Infinite Realm moniker. It was a lot more unique than what we have presently, and after they changed everything about it, it ultimately became a generic mediocre title, which is very evident by the fact that nobody is playing it. I covered this earlier this week in much greater detail with a follow-up video actually coming next week that I'm working on, but Elyon Games and their SoulWorker MMO, an MMO that I have been playing for 5 years now, are in a legal struggle with the Soul Reborn NFT MMO. From what was made available online, Soul Reborn has stolen assets, they've stolen characters, gameplay, everything from Elyon Games and SoulWorker, and is selling NFTs after making fake social media accounts to seem legitimate. This is a disgusting form of abuse, and I would urge players to be very wary of investing into NFTs that engage in behavior like this in the future. Earlier this month, Bandai Namco confirmed that they were actually in the process of developing a brand new game engine. This new engine would allow for them to build all of their new games and keep them to a certain look, a certain style. There have been rumors going around alluding to the fact that this could mean that Blue Protocol, instead of being built using Unreal Engine 4, would be delayed due to the conversion to a brand new engine that won't be ready until 2023 or 2024. While that is definitely a possibility, after investing over 2 years into the development of the game, with over 100 staff members working on it full-time around the clock, I think it's a bit of a stretch of the imagination. Throwing away all that work and delaying the game into, what, 2025 or 2026? Yeah, that's unlikely. And that is it. That is everything relating to the MMORPG genre that mattered to me over the course of the last week. We had some good news, we had some bad news, but that is to be expected. You know what isn't to be expected? This game right here.